Hans and Wave Solutions. These are going to be my co-moderators. And at a later point, I will hand them over to chair some of the sessions. So let me at this point introduce my co-moderators. Mr. Felix Opio is the co-country director of Hans Arl Norman Stiftung, and Frederick Bergeron is the deputy general manager of Wave Solutions. You're welcome to this webinar. I have also a team of presenters who are going to share a lot more with us today, and I will introduce each one of them ahead of their sessions. For our audience, before we dive into the actual framework and experiences, we want to hear from you where you're participating from and what you think about the cross-sector collaboration. So at this point, I want to invite our technician in the back end of TeamUp to share a few questions, which I request you to respond to in a few minutes. Please get your gadgets ready. And you can either take the link and paste it on your gadget, or you can scan the QR code to be able to get into the Mentimeter. First, we would like to know where you're joining in from today. Okay. Here we are with our second question. Please continue engaging with us. Okay. Okay. I hope we've all given feedback. And thank you so much for your responses and that very active participation. So as we progress, please feel free to use the question and answer section to share your thoughts and questions. But also, if you have a technical challenge, please post it in the chat so that our technicians can support you. The question and answer section for any questions you may have, and later on, our presenters will be responding to them. So I want at this point to introduce to us Ronald Nsobuga. He's going to start us off because he's a young man who has been part of the Team Up cross-sector collaboration journey since 2018. And Ronald, you are welcome to share your experience with us and the esteemed audience. Ronald?
Yes, thank you, Sarah. Good morning to everyone. As mentioned, my name is Nsobuga Ronald, a youth champion under the Team Up program and the current coordinator of the Team Up Youth Network. I'm honored to be sharing with you my story today on how the Team Up program has impacted not only my life, but my community. I joined Team Up in its pilot phase back in 2018 as a youth club member. At the time, my goal was simple. I simply wanted to improve my ability to save money, but little did I know that this decision would open doors I had never imagined. Through Team Up, myself and many young people in rural Mityana and Kasanda have received training in organizational leadership, application of good agricultural practices, the VISLA methodology, peer-to-peer education, youth-led advocacy, and advocating for improved service delivery in the water sector and sexual reproductive health and rights. These trainings have laid a foundation for many of us to become active, informed, and empowered members of our communities. With access to knowledge and networks, our minds have been opened to the potential we hold as young people to drive meaningful change. So before Team Up, I personally survived on a modest income as a primary school teacher. This was barely enough to support my family. But everything changed when I joined the YFFS group. Equipped with all the literacy skills, I began saving and eventually was able to secure a loan of 500,000 Ugandan shillings. And with that, I started a mobile money stall for my wife. That small step marked the beginning of a transformational journey from me being an employee to now becoming an employer. As we speak, my wife and I run a social enterprise known as Ramrak, which equips rural youth with entrepreneurial skills. And currently, we are able to employ 7 young girls and 2 young boys. These boys are also having access to the same knowledge and empowerment that we have received through the Team Up program. But then, beyond the entrepreneurship, Team Up has empowered me to become a youth leader and an advocate. Because the program aims at solving issues that are within the communities, we actually get evidence through engaging with the community members. This has helped in putting our efforts at specific issues and with targeted outcomes. As a young person living within rural Mityana, I've witnessed firsthand the challenges young people, especially girls, face in accessing sexual reproductive health services. Banda sub-county, where I come from, has one of the highest rates of teenage pregnancy in the district. And this reality fuels my daily commitment to advocating for better service delivery when it comes to sexual reproductive health. On this note, in May 2024, I joined fellow youth leaders within my community to launch a campaign that aimed at renovating the youth-friendly corner at Mpongo Health Center 3, which serves the community of Banda. Gladly, our efforts paid off during the celebrations of Youth Day, where we had community leaders fundraising, and we were able to gather a donation of 20 iron sheets that were to be used as a start for the renovation of this friendly corner. This milestone helped us realize the power that lies in collective action. And from there, we realized that there was a lot we could achieve. We further united as young people, that's in Mutiana and Kasanda, to continue doing advocacy that aims at addressing systematic issues. Another challenge that we identified as we were doing advocacy was the understaffing that's within the health facilities that we have in the two districts of Mutiana and Kasanda. And now we targeted our advocacy at making sure that health facilities have additional health workers. And as we speak today, one of the health facilities, that is Malangala Health Center 3, has been provided with more health workers, with 2 specifically assigned to support young people at the youth-friendly corner. These and other milestones make me feel that the cross-sector approach that TeamUp is using actually works, because the focus on agriculture, water, and health continues to uplift young people across the region. Young people are gaining hands-on skills, access to vital information, and platforms to advocate for change. The ripple effects are real, and there is growth that's very visible. The unified ecosystem that provides shared resources and goals provides a holistic approach in which youth issues are tackled from different aspects, but aiming at the same goal. And then the multi-stakeholder engagements that are done, which involve public, private, and civil society actors, have played a major role in creating positive impact in our communities, where we are taking lead as young people in advocating for the change we envision in our communities. As I close, I want to say this. TeamUp didn't just change my life, it gave me the tools to change other lives too. And that, to me, is the true power of youth empowerment and cross-sector collaboration. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Ronald, for sharing your experience. I hope this has helped to demystify what cross-sector collaboration means to a program participant. To our audience, I now take the pleasure to invite the team that has worked tirelessly to have the framework and toolkit in its current form. So let me introduce Blaga and Caesar as our speakers. Blaga is a systems thinker, facilitator, and bridge builder driven by curiosity and purpose, with years of practice in the field of development cooperation in Africa. She's interested in creating spaces for meaningful dialogue and collecting stories that inspire for purposeful action. Welcome, Blaga. And Caesar is a colleague of Blaga, and I guess Blaga can now take the space as we progress.
Thank you, Sarah. And it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this morning. And I especially would like to thank Ronald for this very insightful presentation that he gave us. I now hand over to Cesar, my colleague, to also introduce himself. And we will dive into the discussion about what is cross-sector collaboration and why it is important.
Thank you, Blaga. It's a pleasure to be here. So we were very excited when we first came to this engagement. We We believe on the value that Team Up has from his experience and the value that it's adding in the community from what we already discovered a little bit from what Ronald shared with us. We are Cambio Natural. We are focusing in nurturing collaboration for more desirable futures. And we ask ourselves often this question: how do we meet and coordinate to lead towards more desirable futures for us and the planet? This is a question that lives in our mind all the time. And that's why we were so happy to join this venture together with Team Up, because I feel they have this question too. And not only they have this question on their mind, but they're answering it. And that's what brought us to the Team Up cross-sector collaboration management framework. And this guide and toolkit, which we are very happy to have participated and co-designed with, brought us to think and to define what is cross-sector collaboration, which I think Blaga can speak more about.
Thank you. Yeah, before we dive into how the framework is designed and how it can be used, we would like to look into 3 different implementation approaches that we have often seen in the development sector, starting with what we call a siloed approach, or a single sector interventions or initiatives, where we see actors approaching systemic and interconnected challenges through disconnected interventions. How would that look like in practice? And I would like to use Ronald and his family as an example. So how would a single sector initiative approach look like? On Mondays, Ronald would be invited to join a youth group that is trained in, let's say, good agricultural practices. Then on Tuesday, his wife is invited to join a saving group with other women from the community to improve the economic situation of their families. On Wednesday, they're invited as a family to a community outreach on sensitizing them about the importance of sanitation and hygiene and a wash training. Then on Thursday, all these organizations decide to plan activities and invite the same people, because they're serving the same communities, but they're not coordinating, they're not approaching the communities looking at what they need, but rather what they have to offer. In a multi-stakeholder approach that we see more and more being practiced across the world in development initiatives, we have different actors still pursuing their own ambitions and their own agendas, but in a more coordinated manner. And this coordination can be initiated by different actors. It can be a request by the funders. It can be a request by the local government that prefers to deal with such initiatives in a more consistent manner. Or it can also be organizations finding each other and realizing it makes more sense for us to work together and to coordinate, to build synergies where it makes sense, so that we can all pursue our visions. Cesar, if you could change the slide, please. So how would that look like in practice? Again, I'll take the example of Ronald's family. They would be invited to join a youth group as a family, and then again, on Monday, they would have a training in good agricultural practices. On Tuesday, they would have a training in WASH. On Wednesday, they would have their meeting for the village saving and loan associations. So again, there is a level of coordination and there is a level of efficiency, but organizations and actors are still thinking in their own silo. How is cross-sector collaboration different? Cross-sector collaboration starts, next slide please, with jointly identifying needs and available resources and using them to define and pursue a shared and common vision. So we leave the our sectoral thinking behind, and we think from the perspective of who are the actors involved, what are their needs, what are the resources that they bring to the table, and how can these resources be used in the best way to pursue a shared vision. Next slide, please. So that basically constitutes the biggest difference between a multi-stakeholder and a cross-sector collaboration. In a multi-stakeholder approach, we still have the siloed view. We still have the need for somebody to coordinate all these actors. And the very reasoning behind a multi-stakeholder partnership is usually more opportunistic. It's more geared towards efficiency in the use of resources, while it still generates some shared learnings. And we've seen with the example of TeamUp that what starts as a multi-sector partnership can slowly evolve into a cross-sector collaboration, which takes a more systemic view, which is more purpose-driven, and most importantly, it is rooted in agency, in the agency of all the actors involved in that cross-sector collaboration. Again, coming back to Ronald, and I think his presentation very clearly showed how he has agency and ownership over what is happening in his community, because him and his fellow youth have taken an active role and participate in the decision-making processes in their community. And this is what we believe the main difference and the huge potential of cross-sector collaboration is. Now, I would like to invite you again to go back to the Menti, because we have 2 more questions for you. Perhaps what you heard so far sparked some thoughts and ideas in your minds. So we would like to gather your thoughts here and hear from you what you believe or where your organization is on the spectrum, so to say. Are you closer and more aligned with a multi-stakeholder partnership, or are you already on the way or even participating actively in a cross-sector collaboration? That looks very promising. We are closer to cross-sector collaboration. But as we mentioned already, we know it's a process, and we know it's an evolution that takes some time. And we will hear more about that also from our colleagues from the TeamUp program. Great. Thank you so much for your answers. We saw quite a balanced picture, but still leaning towards a cross-sector collaboration. So we're very happy that the audience today is already familiar with the concept. So it's a very relevant presentation for you also to learn more about the framework, how it has been used, and how it might be useful for you as well. I hand over to our moderators. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Blaga and Cesar, for the elaborate introduction of the cross-sector collaboration. We very much appreciate this. Thanks to Sarah for moderating this insightful segment. At this point, I would like to take on from you to moderate the next session. Once again, my name is Felix Opio. I serve as a co-country manager for Hans R. Neumann Stiftung, one of the partner implementing TeamUp program, which has extensively applied this cross-sector collaboration approach, which we are discussing today. Before we continue, just a humble reminder to our audience, please feel free to post your question in the chat box as the session progresses. We will collect them and address as many as possible during the Q&A session. So to continue, we will now move into our next segment, where we will hear from Sylvia Pimera from the Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development. She will share first-hand experience in applying the cross-sector collaboration approach, and her experience will offer a practical perspective on how the framework can be effectively applied with government system and beyond. Sylvia, you're most welcome.
Thank you, Felix. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. As introduced, Sylvia Pimera is my name. I serve as a youth officer at the Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development. I'd like to start by thanking TeamUp for this, and also for our members for joining in. And Ronald, you made my work easier in your presentation of the impact, how cross-sector collaboration supports the young people to develop and achieve their full potential. You've already had an understanding of what cross-sector collaboration is. It's the planning together, implementing, but also holding ourselves accountable. But as Uganda, what is the legal or institutional framework that guide cross-sector collaboration? I'll start with the Constitution, the 1995 Constitution of Uganda, which provides for affirmative action under Article 32, where we are mandated to take measures in favor of groups marginalized by history, tradition, customs to redress imbalances. And these are based on age, gender, and disability. And you can clearly see that if affirmative action should be taken to redress some of these imbalances, it can't be a single entity. But also under NDP 4, there's programmatic approach where we have sectors working together. You are aware we have the human capital development, where you have Ministry of Education leading, but we have Ministry of Health, Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development contributing to achieve this, but also community mobilization and mindset change. And for us in the youth sector, we have the policy, the National Youth Policy 2016. It also provides for the ministry, gives the ministry mandate to coordinate actors and sectors in youth sector, both in government, ministries, department, agencies, development partners, and the implementing partners, both at national and subnational level. And then we have the National Coordination Mechanism for Youth Programs. As a ministry, we noted a gap where when actors plan individually, work individually, the impact is not felt and there's lots of duplication. So ministry came up with a National Coordination Mechanism for Youth Programs where we have partners working together, planning together, giving accountability to one another, and this is done quarterly. Here, I would like to pause and first appreciate TeamUp for believing in the vision of working together as a team. They supported us from the launch of this coordination mechanism from COVID, when we were in lockdown, up to the quarterly meetings, because there are structures on how the coordination structure is and when people can meet. And TeamUp Uganda believed in the vision and has supported the ministry since. So we ask, why cross-sector collaboration for youth? One is that young people are diverse and heterogeneous. No single solution can solve their problems. But also the issues affecting young people are multidimensional. There are issues of education, health, and in health, there's sexual, reproductive, maternal, neonatal health. Then we have livelihoods, water, sanitation, protection, and governance. So you can see, if we are to collaboratively, comprehensively solve the issues of young people, then we would have to work together in a coordinated manner so that young people are holistically empowered to be better citizens of this country. But also, when we work together, we minimize duplication and optimize resources, because then we get to know who is doing what building blocks do we add on what is there, how do we hold our hands together to empower the young people better. Then the alignment, how does it align with government of Uganda? The benefits of when we work together, it's the alignment with the national policy. We get to see that under that, I'll give the example, the youth policy, where it mandates working together because there are many priorities and that government identifies under the national youth policy. We have interventions in ICT, we have interventions in health, governance, participation, agriculture. And you will understand that for all this to be, so for all these areas to be handled properly and the young people benefit, because at the end of the day, it is about the young people we are to serve, then we have to work together. It also strengthens policy implementation and coordination. Here it is easier, like when we are working together, I'll give under the coordination mechanism, it has been easy for partners to identify areas of implementation, to identify what is new, which policies are on ground, which ministry, which partner is doing something, so that it can be translated into action with guidance from every member. But also the accountability and shared results. Like I said, under the coordination mechanisms, we hold each other accountable against the plans we set, what is going, because then we want to learn lessons for uptake. So it is a platform for accountability and sharing good practices and joint monitoring. We had the privilege of going to Kansanda under TeamUp, Kansanda and Mityana, to see what is happening. And it was not just ministry, it was other partners. We had Youth Alive Uganda, we had VSO going to see what is there and what can be picked from there and translated to inform their programming. And then enhanced youth empowerment and participation. Uganda Ministry of Gender, Ministry of Health, Education, we have planning, UBOS, and the UN, 13 UN agencies have created the Uganda UN Joint Adolescence and Youth Program. And in there, we formed Adolescents and Youth Reference Group, which is a platform that has young people in school, out of school, in the urban, rural, and also within the refugee setting, so that then their voices are felt in the planning and programming of activities and programs under the joint program. So you can see how youth empowerment and participation is enhanced when we work together, but also leveraging resources and expertise. Like I said, when we work together, we have seen it, members are getting networks, connections on who does what. You now know if you want something on agriculture, hands is there, web solution is there when you want technology on clean water. So how then do you tap? You see now you're getting the expertise from the networks that have been created within the coordination mechanism, but also the partnerships at district and community levels. And still again, the coordination mechanism. The structure we have is from national level and the districts, where we have all partners within the districts, national level coming together to pick on and also learn from what is out there, and then how they can localize it, because then we have districts, individual districts having their district plans, and partners are listening, are called in a room to be presented to the plans of the district and how as organizations can translate to the implementation of those plans. Because like I said, it's already a platform for accountability, planning, implementing, but also holding ourselves accountable at the end. Then what is the benefit to the young people? Ronald already shared life experience of how he has benefited under the Team Up Uganda. So you can see there's comprehensive support for youth development. We visited a community, a YEK center in Kansanda, and we had, for those of us who are in Uganda, the group actually had another chala. It is, for those of us not in Uganda and don't understand Luganda, it is having someone to guide the fellow young women within the groups. It is already an economic empowerment group that is set up there in agriculture. They have a shop, but they also have this young lady identified within the group to guide life skills. How do you manage a home? If you've had a child, how do you delay the second pregnancy? How do you keep the child? Then what comes with having a baby and the extra income you're coming? So you get to see the comprehensive support to the young people when you work together. And this is because under Team Up, there was the health aspect, economic aspect, the agricultural bit, and then the water solutions. So you can see the comprehensive support for youth development, and then the increased access to opportunities. When working in a collaborative manner under the parish development model. And again, we were with the team that are on this, in this webinar. PDM, Parish Development Model, the coordinators for Central Region, have again indicated, because of the success they have seen that Team Up has showcased with the groups that they have in the community, they are having discussions on how do they target and ensure these young groups, beyond the support they have, they benefit from the finances coming under PDM. So you see the increased access to opportunities that are already in place, because then there's local government coming in, the district is there, because then even it's the district at that level that is identifying the young people to benefit from PDM. And now the cross collaboration with the partners, the Ministry of Local Government and the district, it increases access to opportunities. And then the improved employability and entrepreneurship. Like I said, skilling moves together with young people. Say, you don't skill me and don't give me where to start from. But if working together, it is easier. A partner that is doing skilling and a partner that is doing internship, apprenticeship for the young people, it is easier for the two to work together, and that improves the employability of the young people. The better health and well-being through the integrated health and social services, the enhanced youth participation. I already said we have the platforms created like the Uganda UNGO Interdolescence and Youth Program, but we also have under EU, we have the EU Sounding Board. That is also another platform that has been created for young people. And you get to see that when we are consulting on platforms, because we have these young spaces for young voices already organized, they easily participate in the development, in the consultations to develop policy. A recent example is when we were working on Ministry of education is working on the life skills and health education for children, young people in school. Because of these organized groups and the networks and the collaboration, Ministry of Gender, Ministry of Health, we consulted the adolescents and youth reference group members. We had to go and consult the EU sounding board members because it is already a platform, and working together, it has enhanced their participation and their voices will be felt even in the final product for the life skills and health education. And the efficient use of resources, because then now we are not duplicating, and the stronger community and institutional support. A key example, again, when we had visited Kansanda under TMAP, the community were offering land that these young people could set up their demonstration farms for free, because they appreciated the product of what collaboration can do to a young person. If you handle the health, if you skill them, and the basics. So because of the benefits, communities are in land, which is unheard of for us in Uganda. But now community gets to see the product of the holistic support collaboratively to this young person. And you see the community supporting this. And then the promotion of innovation and digital inclusion. Again, collaboratively, more resources, more opportunities for the young people for upscaling beyond the initial engagements. So how do we maximize cross-sector collaboration? One is the strengthening of the coordination mechanism that we already have, and then institutionalizing multi-sectoral planning at district and sub-county levels under the PDM, enhancing data sharing. I will speak about TMAP most because because of the relationship and how we work. We have engaged the youth, the district youth focal point officers. In some districts, it's the district community development officers, built their capacity in mapping and reporting. So that, and we developed a tool that they can use to map and know who is doing what in their district, who are the young people they are serving, and how are they reporting to you. And then promotion of public-private sector, public-private partnership for youth skilling, then the increasing youth participation in policy design, budgeting, and monitoring. So in conclusion, cross-sector collaboration ensures policies translate into tangible benefits, improved livelihoods, better health, stronger participation and inclusion. By working together, we can unlock the full potential of our Ugandan population and advance the national development agenda. Thank you. Over to you, Felix. Thank you.
I think Felix disrupted him. So Sarat, if you could take over. Maybe I'll just say to introduce Blaga to take over this session. I think network on Felix's side, he's not on at the moment.
Thank you, Monica, and thank you, Pimer, for this very, very insightful presentation. You're one of the users of the framework, so it's very important to hear how the framework was applied on the ground and what impact it created. So thank you for that. We're now going to take a step back and talk a little bit more about the framework and how it was designed for cross-sector collaboration. So I hand back over to Cesar to walk us through that. Over to you, Cesar.
Thank you. So you have been hearing me speak for a brief moment, but I haven't introduced myself. So let me talk a little bit about myself. I am welcoming you all from beautiful Mexico City here at 2 a.m. in the morning. And I was born in this gorgeous city, have been traveling in different parts of the world, working with communities and focused in community resilience, planetary health, and disasters reduction for the last decade, working together with communities in Europe, Americas, and Africa. And having said that, one of the key elements of my experience and the experience that we wanted to bring to this cross-sector collaboration comes from robust processes, right? And this process that we conducted for the design of the cross-sector collaboration had important elements that were incorporated in it. So the grounding in local experiences with the initial assessment, the shift of perspectives where we challenged the perspectives of all the stakeholders involved by integrating systemic approaches. And of course, circling back to users, thinking always about who is going to use this tool, how is this tool going to be of benefit to the action, to the transformation, and how this is aligned to their interests and motivation. And this started with, of course, the principles that were brought into the creation of this process, where we believe that context was paramount, learning as expertise, interconnections and multipliers are primary. All of these values that were integrated in the design of this tool, you can see them later expressed in, for example, how this tool has an ownership or reproduction license, which is for Creative Commons, right? Where anyone can access this tool, but credit must be given to the creator, right? Only non-commercial uses are permitted, and where adaptations are allowed, of course. We want people to adapt this tool, to own this tool, but they have to be adapted on the system terms, right? So acknowledging all the different elements and participants that nourish this tool, which are mentioned here. Of course, Blaga, me, but Sophie, Manuel, and many, many people and organizations that have nourished this framework together with Team Up, Siemens, the Hans-Riemer Stiftung, and the Deutsche Stiftung für Wevelneng. And this diversity is what we wanted also to depict in how the framework was designed. But not only the diversity of perspectives, but also, again, thinking of the diversity of users we could have. And that's why we focused on having very simple, clear language, trying to describe with the utmost care and detail every element that was part of this framework, which incorporates, of course, a user's guide, description, which Blaga just shared a couple of slides on what cross-sector collaboration entails. Then we talked, of course, of what nourished and what ignited this framework, the team-up experience. Then key concepts and principles, right? So principles are important from when we talk about collaboration, and we discussed this key concepts and principles that can nourish cross-sector collaboration, how to design and implement the cross-sector collaboration, the risks that sometimes can be perceived when we approach collaboration, and the opportunities and how to manage them, and of course, learning and adaptation. All of these elements we integrated in the design of the framework, which can be used online in the presentation that you're looking, which is open access. And it's also designed to be used offline, right? So you can be, this presentation can be printed and can guide offline activations. And we also thought, where are we approaching our users? So we thought of different scenarios where collaboration can emerge, right? It can be from the beginning or where collaboration already exists. So we described different scenarios where this cross-sector collaboration is emerging and how to guide it and which elements are important. Here I'm sharing a little bit of one of the scenarios we describe the experience of Team Up, for example. Now, how can we use the tools for cross-sector collaboration, right? We already know what has nourished the framework, but it's important to know how this framework is going to nourish the actions that you are all conducting. And for that, I'm going to go over to my colleague Blaga.
Thank you, Cesar. So as we already hinted, the framework and the toolkit are very closely connected. So there are, for example, scientific and practical frameworks that we introduce as part of the main document of the guide that are then used as part of the tools so that they can be contextualized by the users. I'll give the example here. One of the scientific concepts that we introduce is the donut economics framework, which describes an economic system that allows for meeting the needs of all within the means of the living planet. So why is this relevant for cross-sector collaboration? How was it relevant for Team Up? Well, it clearly highlights that in order to achieve that social foundation where the needs are met, there is a need for concerted actions. And these concerted actions also need to consider the ecological ceiling. So we also need to think about how are the actions that different actors in our community are doing, how are they also affecting the ecological systems, so that we also think about the long-term sustainability of our interventions. So we use this framework to map out the needs and the ecological systems and how the actors that are involved contribute to meeting those social needs, and also how different actions that take place can harm the ecological systems, and what can be done to manage that risk. So throughout the framework, you will also see how we relate all the elements of the guide and to the Team Up experience. So when we introduce different frameworks and different principles, we also illustrate how these have been approached in Team Up, and how this has nourished the design of the framework, and especially the guidance in terms of what are key principles of cross-sector collaboration, how to manage and map out resources, something that also I'm very happy that that was mentioned also by Pimer in her presentation, how community members pool resources together with other actors in order to address these social needs. And so the frameworks and concepts that are part of the main guide are then reflected in the tools. So it says, if you go into the next slide, you will see that in the tool for alignment of purpose and strategy, we take from the donut economic framework, we combine it with elements from the planetary health educational framework, and we develop simple tools, simple elements that can guide the development of shared purpose and a common strategy. You can see that in the framework, each tool has this cover page, so to say. So we introduce the tool by guiding the users on what is the purpose of this tool, why and when it should be used, by whom, and also at what frequency. Cesar, if you would like to complement here. Over to
I
you.
just want to take back perhaps on the element of the framework that you were just mentioning. I really appreciate how previous speakers have really brought forward their experience and how it has aligned so well with frameworks that we have incorporated to complement the experience of TeamUp, right? And to offer a scientific base to actions that are already being conducted, right? And I think this I really appreciate this phrase that it's part of this slide, that it's part of the tool, right? So the ecological condition considerations became community considerations, right? And you can see it here in the examples of how poor soil quality is connected to phenomena that are felt worldwide, right? So the climate change, biodiversity loss, land conversion, but it's affecting the community, right? Same for water scarcity. And this to me is the best and the most powerful example of how cross-sector collaboration is not only allowing people that are part of the TeamUp community to improve and imagine more desirable futures for themselves, right? But it can guide more desirable futures for everyone in other places, right? And that's the beauty of this framework, because it takes from this very clear active experience, and through these scientific frameworks, it allows it to be replicable in places that perhaps may be very far from Uganda or next door, right? So I wanted to sort of underline this, which I find very powerful, and share again my gratitude and my excitement of being part of this project. I think having been nourishing what the future of cross-sector collaboration can look like for TeamUp, and how TeamUp can nourish from their experience what cross-sector collaboration exists outside of the regions, has been very rewarding for me, and the whole process of discovery and design working as well together with you, Blaga. So thank you very much to the whole consortium, and we carry on together.
Thank you so much, Blaga and Cesar. We now welcome the Program Coordination Unit Coordinator, Monica Basemera, who is going to briefly share with us the TeamUp experience, really the practical application of the framework and the toolkit we've been talking about. Welcome, Monica.
Thank you, Sarah. Again, my name is Monica Basemera. I'm the head of program coordination for TeamUp Uganda. And I'd like to start with a short story about Agnes and Peter, the two happy couples here, and just maybe share a quick joke with you about the phenomena in Uganda that we call the planned kid. The planned kid is born in a household where they have planned for them. The parents know that they have enough money in their pocket to educate them. They understand nutrition, they have livelihood, they understand sexual reproductive health, but they are part of a community that supports them. Agnes is part of the peer facilitators group, has had training on understanding how to work in gender dynamics in a rural area that is mostly planned for men. So how does the TeamUp experience impact and create what we call the planned kid? When Peter wakes up in the morning, the first thing he thinks to himself, how do I take care of my family? Peter understands that he needs money in his pocket, but he also needs a healthy child and a healthy wife. Peter is 27, Agnes is 25. And that is the premise that we bring to the table, the understanding that youth challenges are holistic. When you look at the critical sectors of agriculture, water, health, they actually have quantifiable effects on youth livelihoods in the country. When the team up approach became something that could be applied, we not only looked at how is it going to be done, but who can do it. You saw Blaga's presentation about the siloed work. You already had partners that had been working extensively in the fields of agriculture, water, health. Therefore, we needed to create an ecosystem that could look at, already had the expertise, but could look at the pressing problems with young people in rural Uganda and come up with solutions that could be applied together. In this case, we had Action for Health, Hans Neumann Stiftung Uganda, and Wave Solutions. But in that, we also created an ecosystem of multiple donors that pooled resources together as well to make this possible. And all of this is tried and tested. TeamUp has been implemented since 2018, but not only in Uganda, we've also been able to replicate it under the SAFA Stiftung for Africa, and also in Tanzania and Ethiopia. So this shows that creating these ecosystems of cross-sector collaboration actually can be done. It's been done in Uganda, and it's now being done in Tanzania and Ethiopia. When you talk about, the other day I was talking to my colleague and we were talking about cross-sector collaboration for an outsider looking in. It looks pretty chaotic. It looks unattainable. But within the TeamUp Uganda, we've been able to create structures and systems and processes that enable cross-sector collaboration to work in a systematic, well-defined, sometimes bumpy road, but something that works. You create little pockets of what a colleague of mine used to call holacracy, where decisions are made in small pockets, but they are able to either go up or go down. We have what we call the National Steering Committee, which consists of all our CEOs under the TeamUp. You have the International Coordination Team that looks at all our donor program managers. You have the M&E technical working groups that include all the partner M&E working officers. All of those, the managers, the communication and advocacy, first working as a unit and then pushing all these different decisions to the relevant areas that need to be addressed. In this way, you create an ecosystem within the organizations that you have in consortium, but then also now push that concerted effort into the communities themselves. So when we're looking at replication, we look at micro, meso, and the macro system. You look at a youth empowerment center, all sectors are represented. All issues are collected there and then moved to the district local government. When you look at a youth club, in 1 year, they are able to consistently save close to 700 million Ugandan shillings. And in those, about 400 million Ugandan shillings can be shared within the individual family. You look at an individual family and a household. You have my example of Peter and Agnes, having a goat that they know will provide milk, but also income for their young planned kid. You have them coming up with a new latrine and toilet for their home because they have had an engagement about sanitation. You have them joining a village savings and loans association. All of that concerted, looks chaotic, but actually works. Then you go on to the meso level, what we call the meso level. You're looking at the regional community practice that we have created, with district local government being the entry points that we bring in. You have the national, the NGOs that are also constantly engaged and also sharing stories like Pimera. I won't go too much. You have the CBOs, grassroots organizations that are oftenly working quite a lot, but not really seen as impactful, but all of them in one melting pot at the regional level, and then translating that into the national community of practice, where you have ministry, department, agencies, all bringing together all these required needs that TeamUp is really trying to push. The understanding that the issues and the solutions have to be all of us combining our knowledge, our efforts, and creating access for youth that may have been done and have been done over time, but now we can now create this concerted effort that pushes us to that last mile, looking at transformational change within the communities. When we talk about cross-sector collaboration, we talk about the fact that not everyone is going to fill the roles that are required. We have to create those platforms that actually create clarity, draw out all that confusion that often comes when we're trying to come up with critical big problems. So how do you bring that smaller? How do you make it smaller but do big things? You create platforms and support them, like the National Coordination Mechanism for youth programs. You bring in people like Ministry of Gender, Ministry of Health, National Planning Authority, Ministry of Agriculture. Then you look at systems in climate smart agriculture. What do they require? What do they need? You bring in a platform and support like Ministry of Agriculture, again, for that, Ministry of Water, Ministry of Environment. You look at Asareka, FAO, NPA, UNDP, and SNV. All of these, you go to the regional, you create another community of practice platform, engage district, local governments, CDOs, COWs, all of this in order to assign roles that then create a melting pot of intervention. Now, the question that I always ask, once you have all these platforms, how do you finally integrate and create intersectionalities that actually work long-term? We have seen that the government is now looking at the national planning of the country, not only at siloed at ministry level, but at program level. How do we make those routes and lines into what is already being done, but do it with all the actors at play? I will leave you with the last slide. I won't explain it, but just to really unpack when we talk about the multiple roles that you can take part in. This is what we are looking at, and these are the partnerships that you're trying to create under TeamUp. It is possible, it has been done, and now we're going into replication, and we have a management framework, which we're calling the TeamUp Cross-Sector Collaboration Management Framework and Toolkit and Replication Toolkit that can be applied. It's on our YouTube pages. You can reach out to any of us and we will be able to share and do some trainings. Cesar and Blaga have been really, really helpful in this journey, and we know that they will keep supporting. And just to say, this is the time. We have brought the actors together. We have a provable implementation approach, and we are ready to share it with everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Monica, our coordinator. And to our audience, please keep alive, engage us in the Q&A section. We want to hear back from you, but also we want to respond to any questions that you might have. At this point, I want to invite my co-moderator, Frederick Bergeron from Wave Solutions, an IP and TeamUp, to take us through the next segment. Frederick.
Thank you, Sarah. Good day, everyone. Yes, my name is Frederick Bergeron. I'm the General Manager for Wave Solution and member of the National Steering Committee, together with Sarah, Felix, Monica, and Nicole, and the rest. So we're, again, happy to have you here. And now we would like to have a kind of interaction Q&A session with the webinar participant. We noted just a few questions coming in online, but we would like to encourage you that don't hesitate if you have questions. We have this Q&A box down in your Zoom window that you can access and ask a question, especially about the different panelists that have come in this webinar. We can see there was this question from Mr. Moses Owery about beneficiary involvement. I would like to read and maybe ask Ronald to answer it live. The question is, how are the target beneficiaries involved in especially the formative ideation stage of cross-sector interventions? I know we've heard Madame Pimer talk of this as she talked of when she visited Mityana and Kasanda, how they collaborated with beneficiaries and other stakeholders. in our district of intervention. But maybe can we ask Ronald to come back and also elaborate on this question?
Yeah, thank you, Frederick. So I'll simply give a few ideas on how we as beneficiaries are involved in the formation and the ideation of these interventions. One, you realize that before any intervention is made, normally the implementing partners conduct a baseline survey. In TeamUp's case, these baseline surveys were made in the communities where these beneficiaries reside. And before the implementation was actually done, you realize that a lot of information is gathered from the beneficiaries on what's their view of the current status, how they feel that if a certain intervention is done, how its impact might be. And then I feel that whatever the programming may be, it's normally conducted and programmed basing on the survey that has been made. But also, when you look at how these interventions directly involve the beneficiaries, there is a slogan these days that says, "Nothing for us without us." And as young people in the TeamUp program, we've totally been involved in the ideation of everything that's actually being implemented during the program. You realize, as Ms. Pimea narrated during her presentation, that even in the formulation of the newly formed National Youth Coordination Framework by the Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development, I personally and other members of the TeamUp Youth Network, we were directly involved in this formulation. So we own all the ideas that are within the formulation. To me, I feel that if such interventions are made, the beneficiaries are directly involved in the program even before its beginning. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Ronald. Very insightful. And I wonder if Madame Pimer has also something more to answer to in regard to this question of beneficiaries involvement and stakeholders. Also, she talked of also during the policy development at the ministry. Madame Pimer, would you like to say a few words?
Yeah, thank you so much, Frederick. Our involvement, the ministry, and Ronald will testify, when we were going for the monitoring, I didn't just come alone from the ministry. We had the district heads in Mityana were represented by the assistant cow, and in Kasanda, we had the cow join us. But we also had that cross. We had the cow for Kasanda join us in Mityana, and the one of Mityana join us in Kasanda. But we also didn't go with one department. We had the Department of Health, we had the Department of Community-Based Services and Education. And like you're saying, you could see even at the district level, there was the appreciation that youth issues is not just an issue for one department, community-based services, like someone would think, but it is the realization that at district level, from the leadership to the different departments, that they have to move together to comprehensively solve and assess and see how to support the young people. So you can see even at the district level that Ronald will attest to, it is not just a single department within government. But also you realize that at the national level, Monica already talked about it. When we are having engagements at the national coordination mechanism, during the coordination meetings, we have all the ministries present. They are all members of this. And when we are sharing issues of young people, you get to see that the health bit, bringing statistics and what they are doing, and the suggestions on how to support the young people is not coming from a single entity. So you see, even at the national level, we are moving to a collaborative support, holistic support to the young people, but also under the parish development model, which I'm sure most of us are aware, the cash transfer at local government, but we have the aspect of community that
Yeah, maybe if you could kindly summarize. I think we're losing a bit the connection.
we have the mobilization, we have the skilling, which is done by of different sectors working together. So for us, that I think that is how I can best explain it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. To my mind, it also relates how this framework and toolkit was developed by itself. So I would like maybe to ask Blaga and Cesar, maybe to elaborate more. I haven't heard much on maybe the development process, how it is included with stakeholders and beneficiaries. Would you like to elaborate a bit about that?
Sure, thank you. Thank you, Frederick. We did mention briefly about the different steps, but we can talk a little bit more about how it looked like in practice. So we did not work alone. We had two colleagues based in Uganda, two local consultants who supported us also throughout the process with engaging with the stakeholders. So we started the process with the needs and feasibility assessment, which was key to inform how the frame to let us know what the needs are, where the communities are standing in terms of cross-sector collaboration, what are expectations, but also what are misconceptions. So we had we heard a lot from stakeholders that there is confusion. What is multi-stakeholder? What is cross-sector? This is why, for example, we felt that there is a need to include such a chapter in the framework that explains the difference, and to design the guide in a way that leads stakeholders to think in those terms. Then again, we had the design process where we were not alone. We spent a lot of time also engaging with Monica. We were talking very often with Monica and discussing, and we engaged also the implementing partners, representatives from the International Coordination Unit. And there was an extended feedback process as well. So we did the first presentation of the framework. We gathered feedback. We made some adaptation. So it was an iterative process. And then we also started getting feedback once the framework was piloted with the communities. And this was the most valuable feedback, I would say, because the user feedback really helped us also finalize the structure and finalize not only the content but also how it is presented.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much. I think we're getting close to the end of this webinar, but before I end out for the closing remarks, I would like just to mention two quick things. One, we acknowledge there's a bit more a question from Mr. Florian coming in. We can address it at a later stage. And also I would like to invite people to also our Team Up YouTube channel, where there's a video about this framework and the toolkit. And again, thank you very much for the question and answers. I may hand over back to you, Sarah. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Frederick. And to our audience, apologies, really, we are now, I think, rushing because we want to end, this very soon. And please be assured that for all the questions that have come in the Q&A, we are going to respond to them either directly, because right now we don't have enough time to really, respond physically. And I want now to take this minute to really thank you all for your active participation up to this point. And only one item really remaining. And as I told you at the beginning, that this Team Up Cross-Sector Collaboration Program was initiated by our partners in Germany, DSW, HRNS, and Siemens, together or in conjunction with the BMZ. It is therefore my pleasure now to invite the head of program at DSW, Angela Ba, to give us some closing remarks. Angela.
Dear Sarah, dear colleagues, hello. Good morning from autumn in Germany, I have to say. So I send really my most warm welcome and my most warm greetings to East Africa, especially for sure to our Ugandan partners here of Team Up, but also to everybody who is here on the screen or in the webinar today. Dear colleagues, again of Team Up effort in Uganda, dear implementing partners, dear participants here, dear Ms. Pimera, and dear young people and participants of Team Up. I'm extremely proud, and I really would like to thank you for this very interesting and enriching webinar today, because it brings out really the richness between the framework for a cross-sectoral collaboration and the learning or experiences and the practice, which we have experienced together in a real adventure, let me say, here between the partners in Germany. These are 3 German foundations together with the BMZ, and with our IPs for sure, and the PCU of Team Up in Uganda. So it has been an adventure about 7 years. And I just wanted to close really this incredible webinar today with 3 points, which are extremely important for me in our experiences all over the years. First of all, cross-sectoral collaboration is an adventure. Please be aware of it. But what does it need? It needs, first of all, also the desire and the interest to learning together. The second point, which is even more important in the good moments, but also in the difficult moments of program implementation, it's a continuous communication across and between all actors. And for sure, as always in life, it's nice to talk about the very good results, but sometimes it costs a little bit more to talk about the challenges also. So continuous communication. Everybody who would like to work in cross-sectoral communication must know that it needs a structure, but it also needs the willingness to communicate. And just let me give you one example from the really beginning of the project. Together with the institutional partners or with our implementing partners in Uganda, we built up a joint office space in Mityana. And this joint office space where all officers, where everybody who works in the 3 implementing partner organizations could meet and could talk and exchange formally and informally, for me still is one of the result and or the success factors for this cross-sectoral collaboration. We need to be near, we need to exchange. If we are not doing this one, then we could not understand, and we would not understand the real experience of other sectors. We would not understand the needs, and it would cost us even more energy. So please let me close this webinar today. Please use the toolkit, but also please continue this journey. everybody who has been involved in this continuous effort of Team Up really continue with your own experiences. When we are looking at the young people, for example, I was so proud today in the morning to see the young participation, but also to hear or to see the history or the message of the young couple, for example. So please go your way, but know that it's not only one sector in your life. You always have different sectors in your life, and you can develop them, and you can develop them together with other partners. So thank you very much. And I'm definitely still curious to have a look on the toolkit, but even more on the further putting in place with other program activities also in Uganda. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Angela. And to everybody, thank you for being so active, and thank you for participating in this webinar. I wish you well. Goodbye.
Goodbye.